So the theme for this section I took is this coding school, and in specific the name of the coding school is this Coddict Buddies. And we are not going to build any UI for this. And of course there are some topics which we can use with some great UI, but I have limited it to the JavaScript only because we will focus on JavaScript. Okay, so that you can understand it better. So now let's get back to our array destructuring. So what is destructuring first of all? Okay, so destructuring is, we can say, unpacking of the values from a data structure like arrays or objects and store them in a variable, okay, so that we can use them. Or in other words, we can say breaking down of a complex data structure into a simpler data structure is known as destructuring. Okay, so in case of arrays, we will be unpacking the values so that we can store them in the variables in a very easy way. So let's start with a very simple array example. Okay, so here let's create an array, simple array, and let's have 1 comma 2 comma 3. So earlier, if you wanted to access the elements for this array, how you used to do it? Like this, right? We create few variables like const a, and then we access the elements with their positions one by one, right? For example, I want to access this first element, then what I'll do, simple array at position 0, then here I'll get the first element, right? And same way we'll do for the rest of the elements, a, b, and here c. Okay, let's change the index quickly. So now if I log it, yeah, so here we got our values, okay, like 1, 2, and 3. So earlier this way we used to do it, but now with the help of array destructuring, how we can achieve this? So all we need to do is, first we need to make sure we are using some variable declaration like const or let, and then we have to write an empty array. Okay, and then we have to use the array which we want to destructure. So for example, I want to destructure this array, this simple array. So I have used this one. And in left hand side, in the empty array, what I will do, whichever element I want to access, I'll write the variable to access that element. For example, I want to access the first element. Let's say first, okay, and then I want to access the second element as well. Then I'll write, and I'm writing it, for example, you can take any variable name like x, y, z, a, b, c. A, B, C I've already used, that's why I'm using first and second. Okay, so now let's log it out. First and, okay, so here as you can see, we already started getting the elements of the array, and this time with in a much cleaner way, right? It's way cleaner than this mess, right? So this way we can destructure the elements just by creating the variables for the in the same position which we want to access. Okay, so now let's say if you want to access the first element and the third element, but you want to skip the second element, how you can do that? Let's see an example of that as well. I'll comment this one out. So what I'll do, I'll just leave it as an empty space. I leave the second element as an empty space in destructuring, okay? And then I'll create a variable for the third one. So this way, if I console log this, now you can see I can access first element and the third element in the console log. Okay, so this is how you can access it in the destructuring. So what happens is, when JavaScript sees this array syntax, this square brackets in the left hand sides, it understands like there is something which we are going to destructure from an array. Okay, and destructuring, I know it sounds like we are going to deconstruct the array, but trust me, that doesn't change anything in the actual array. So here we have destructured the first and third element from the array. So we'll think it might have changed something in the original array, but the thing is it haven't. Let me show you. So here I'm logging out the actual array. So as you can see, the actual array is remain unchanged. That means it haven't affected the actual array. We have just pulled out the elements in the separate variable. We haven't changed anything in the original array. Okay, so this is one way. Now uh, with the help of this, what you can do, for example, your interviewer asked you in some question to like swap the elements of an array, um, then how you will do that? A normal developer, how he will do it like this. He'll create a temp variable, okay, and then he'll store the first element. We'll take these ones. In temp variable he'll store a, and then he'll take another variable, c, a equals to c, and then he will store, oh I think I need to use let because we are reassigning the values. Okay, and then what he will do, in c he will store temp, okay, to swap the values of an array, right? So now if I log out these things, a comma b comma c, and let's actually comment out all the rest of the stuff so you won't get confused. So now as you can see, instead of getting 1 to 3, now we are getting 3 to 1. The 1 and 3 got swapped, right? So basically what we have done here, we have stored a in a temp variable, and then we have assigned c's value in a's value, a, okay, and then in c we have again stored the temps value. We can't do it directly, like we can't store c in a, because that way we'll completely lost the initial value of a, right? So that is why we have stored the a's value in this temp variable first, and then we have assigned c variable to a variable, and then later we have assigned the temp variable, which is nothing but a variable, to this c variable. Okay, so this way we have switched it. So it looks a little complex, right? So let's see how we can achieve it with the help of array destructuring. So this is an old way of doing it. Let's comment it out. Now we have destructured the first and third element from an array, right? So now what we need to do is we need to create an array. We have to write, let's say, first and third, okay? And then what we'll do, first of all, we need to make it let, otherwise it will throw error, okay? So now we have the array with these two elements, so we'll use third in first position and then first in the third position. Yeah, so now what will happen, from here we have deconstructed the first element, which is 1, and third element, which is 3. And now what we are doing, we are assigning third element to the first element and first element to the third element. So what will happen, first will hold the third element's value, which is nothing but 3, and third element will hold the first element's value, which is nothing but 1. Okay, so now if you see the log, if I uncomment it, then let's see what happens. Okay, so we again started getting this 3 comma 3 1. Okay, that means we have swapped the values of the elements. Okay, and we haven't used a new variable here, we have assigned in the same variable without using any third variable like we have used here, right? So this is one of the way of swapping the elements in the array. Okay, so we have seen how we can pull out the elements from an array. We have seen how we can swap the elements. Now uh, we have this example, right? So let's pull out something from this example. Let me comment this whole thing. Okay, so now let's say you came to a coding school like Coddict Buddies and you wanted to learn some programming languages, or you want to learn some technical stack. So let's see, we'll create a method, sorry for this. Okay, and here we'll assign a method. So basically what we will do, we'll pass the front end and back end index, fe index and be. So what we are going to do, we are basically going to access the index from these two arrays, right? It is that simple. And we will return a sub array, that means a new array with those two values. Okay, so now we'll use this dot front end, and then we will access the front end index. Okay, and now let's access the backend index as well. At position backend index. Okay, so here what we have done is we have created a method where we are just passing the index, like 0 1 2 we will pass here, and then from this object, from the array, we are going to access the elements from that index. Suppose we have passed 1, so it will access 0 1th element, first element from the front end course, and suppose we have passed 0, then it will access the 0th index element from the backend courses. So let's see a working example of it. Let me write it here actually. Yeah. So coding school dot get courses. Okay. Actually, we need to log it out to see in the browser console. Okay. So let's pass the index. So for example, let's say for front end, we need to learn the JavaScript. So we'll pass 0. And then from back end, we wanted to learn, let's say, Python. So then we'll pass the second index. Okay. So now we have our stack which we want to learn JavaScript and Python. Okay. So first we will learn JavaScript for the front end, and for back end we will learn the Python. Now you want to switch it. Then how you can switch it? Again the same thing we will do. So we have our swapping example here. So let's use this one. So here we were swapping the simple array. Right now this is also returning an array, right? So we will call it here directly, because this is also returning an array. That means we can destructure it right away, right? fe fe course and be. So now let's swap the elements of the array which we got here from this method. Okay, let's swap it out, because here right now we have simply called it but we haven't swapped it. Let's do it. Okay, so let's copy this and we'll paste it here, and then we'll create an empty array, and we will simply use the last element. Or actually let's use it here. Okay, now we'll use the last element in the first position and the first element in the last position. So this way we are going to assign the backend course value into the frontend course and frontend course value to the backend course. Okay, and here we are getting some error because we have destructured, and right away we are swapping its value but we haven't used it anywhere. Okay, so let's log it out to see what we are getting in the fe course and be course. Okay, so let's quickly log it out, and then so now we are getting JavaScript and Python in the fe course and be course. So here again what we have done is we did the swapping. Okay, so here we have assigned the be course to the front-end course and fe course to the be course. So now let's see what we will get after swapping its value. All right, as you can see, now we are getting Python and JavaScript. That means the value which we are getting here is got swapped. Okay, so this is one of the example for swapping the values. So now we have seen, like, we can access the elements, we can swap it out, and we can access the elements from the array whichever we want. Like if you want to skip few elements, we can do that as well. Now let's say we have a nested array For example, let me comment it out quickly. Okay, so now let's say we have a nested array with 1 2 3 comma a new array which contains 4 comma 5. Okay, so now how you will access the elements of this array? This is a nested array, right? Because if you do it the way which I told you just now, like first comma fourth, then let's see what will happen. Let's use this one, first comma third comma fourth. Okay, so now if I log it out, fourth, then see you are getting an array here, right? But I want to access the element of this array. How I can do that? How I can achieve that? So for that also, instead of writing fourth, what you can do, I mean, if you want to access the whole array, then this way is fine. But if you want to access the element inside of the sub array or nested array, what you can do? You can again create an array, right? With saying with new variables, fourth and fifth. Okay. So now if you console log fourth, then as you can see, I started getting the value which is inside of this nested array, which is right here. Okay, and if I want to access fifth, that also I can do. All right, so now I can access 4 and 5. Okay, so this is how we can access the nested array elements as well. Now there is one last thing which I wanted to show you guys. I know it's getting a little bigger video, but most of my videos are bigger only because of the deep explanation. I think you guys have noticed already. So you guys might be habitual of this now if you are seeing this video. So now there is one last thing which I wanted to show you in this video, guys. So let's say you have this simple array, right? Let's keep it simple again. I'll comment out this example and I'll comment out this as well. We'll make it simple. I'll remove the nested array. We have an array of 3 elements. So how we can assign a default value to it? Let's see how we can do that. Okay, so now let's do the same thing which we were doing so far. I think this one we can pick, right? Okay, so first, second and third. So what we want to achieve is like we want to set a default value if the value in that array is not available. Okay, so right now we have these 3 elements. If we want to access the 4th element, then let me show you what will happen. I'm logging out all these values. Okay, so in the first we are getting the first value, in second we are getting the second value, in the third we are getting the third value, but we don't have any 4th element, right? So instead of throwing the error, it is giving me simply undefined, because it happens, right? When you declare a variable and you don't assign any value to it, it will give you undefined, right? So it is acting that way. What we can do is we can assign some default values to it. Let's say we want to assign 1 if we are not getting any value. So this way we can do it, like equals to 1. We will assign it to every place, equals to 1, or let's say equals to 0. It will be much better. So what will happen now? If we are not getting that element in the array, then it will give you 0. As you can see, if I remove the third element as well now, then again I'll get 0 for the third element here. I'm not getting undefined right now. I'm getting the default value. It will pick from here. Okay. So now we have just one element in the array, and now for the rest of the 3 elements it is giving me 0 instead of that undefined thing. Okay. So this is all about array destructuring.